through that experience and through my experience through the years, I found that being very clear, being very direct, and being very transparent those are the right qualities of a leader.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. James Pogue, and welcome back to the Right Kind of Uncomfortable podcast. This week, we're going to be talking to Eric Goldfeld, Senior Vice President for Sales and Distribution at DirectTV. He and I had a far-reaching conversation about connection and deep connection that leaders have with the vision and leaders have with teams, and how that helps them and us to be successful. We talked about the time when he first started his career all the way through when he's in his last 35, 25. I think he may have said 10%. So what we have now is just an opportunity to really dig into this. And I'll give you a little hint here, a little heads up. He even talked about what does love look like as you're trying to work with people to accomplish business goals. That big word that maybe is not used as often as it could. The Right Kind of Uncomfortable podcast coming up. All right, here we are with Eric of DirectTV. Eric, thank you so much for joining me, and I hope that we have I'm anticipating having a great conversation. Our little pre-conversation was nice and warm, so I'm anticipating it be a great conversation. I really appreciate you being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So let's just jump right off the cliff with these questions about connection and how leaders and connection work together in order to help organizations win. So my first question is that, here you are sitting senior level at your organization. You have a big desk and all these other kinds of things that people think are the wonderful parts of being a senior member. But way back when you were a newly minted professional, wet behind the ears, whatever the analogy you want to throw out there, can you recall the first time or two when you recognized that your ability or inability to connect was impacting you? And what did that look like?
Yeah. Even as a young person, growing up, I always liked taking leadership positions. So even before I started working, I've been working with AT&T / DirectTV for 30 years now. With AT&T for 27 years and DirectTV for the last 3 years. But even before that, I always really enjoyed leadership positions. And when I started working with AT&T back, it was 1994, and I became a team manager. I was in a call center. I started out as a customer service representative, answering calls on the phone. And after a year,
you were the guy I want to talk to.
I was the guy, and which is great. It's a great place to start really in any company. When you start front line, you get a level of understanding of the business and of your customers and a level of credibility, because as I rose up through the ranks and would tell people, hey, this is where I started, right? So started just like you, right? I was an online customer service rep, or the equivalent of a retail rep in a store, gives you a certain level of credibility. But even as a young person, I always really enjoyed meeting people and making those connections with people, helping people to develop. So I knew that was what I really enjoyed to do. Now, one thing as a young person, so you think back, okay, what are some of those things? I like to connect with people. I like to develop people. But as a young person, one thing that I would change, or one thing that I recognize, is I led in a way that I wanted people to like me. I wanted to be friendly and friends with the people that were reporting to me. And there's nothing wrong with being friendly with the people that report to you. And there's there could be a warm professional relationship. But I think the one thing that I learned early on, that was probably a little bit of, it was inexperience on my part, a little bit of insecurity on my part, and needing to grow. Right? Not having to feel like they had to like me in order to have them produce and do the job that we needed to do. And also to have them respect me and feel like that I was there for them and there to develop them, right? That wasn't a necessary component. And in fact, if you try too hard to make that a component, it actually could work counterproductive for you, which is what that was something that I learned when I first started out. And it really helped me throughout the years once I kind of figured that out.
So if I'm hearing you right, you're saying that you like people, you like to connect people, but your why for the connection may have been a little off. Part of the why was, I want them to like me. as opposed to I need to be able to lead them well. Is that fair?
Or even the how, even the how I would connect, right? Because I think the why I connected was not necessarily, that wasn't really the driver, right? As much because the why was, I like to lead people. I'd like to be successful. I'd like to help people be successful. So it was all the right things. The why, I think, was all the right things, but the how, it was the how I was going about it was counterproductive to actually being able to achieve what I wanted to achieve, get the respect of the team, which was necessary, and develop them, which is really ultimately what I wanted to do. But I think the how is the part that I kind of faltered a little bit early on in my career.
So let me push a little bit. Give me a tactical how. Like, what's one example of a how you're like, you know what? I did it this way. Looking back, maybe not the best way to actually like tactically do that.
Oh, so again, a million years ago, but it was like, I'm trying to think of a specific example, but as an example, let's just say that, somebody was doing something that was either incorrect or something that I needed to give constructive feedback on. Okay, instead of being very direct with my constructive feedback and giving them the necessary feedback and the tools to correct it, I think I tried to maybe sugarcoat it too much. I think I tried to give them maybe more chances than what was probably necessary or probably appropriate, because again, I didn't want to come across as, and again, I was a young manager. So as a young manager, sometimes I was leading people that were older than me. And I think that's part of the insecurity and the inexperience kind of played into that. But so that would be an example of something where, when somebody is doing something that needs either to be done differently or there's constructive feedback that's necessary. Through that experience and through my experience through the years, I found that being very clear, being very direct, and being very transparent those are the right qualities of a leader. And not only is that helping me being a leader, it's helping them. It's helping them to develop, and it's helping them to be a better employee and produce better. And so that would be an example.
So as you're climbing the ranks now, and you have made some good mistakes and had some good successes around being clear and direct or not, how does that ability to connect, utilizing these tactical ways of executing on it, help your success? Or when you didn't quite hit the ball out of the park, how did it help you navigate failure?
Yeah, I think that, those early experiences really kind of defined for me some foundation, some fundamental things for me as far as leadership and things that I wanted to do with my team. And it was actually really good that I went through that at a younger stage and earlier stage of my career. And I think that, from there, what I tried to do, again, when I connected with people, there were a few things that were really important to me once I kind of got through that learning stage. One was I wanted to make sure that people felt that I really did care about them as people, right? So not just the job, but that I really did care about them as people. Now, and even though I care about you as a person, right, I'm going to set really aggressive, clear, but attainable goals for you to achieve and for us to achieve together, right? And I'm going to hold you accountable. And I'm going to communicate and make sure we're aligned. So these were some of those fundamental things that I wanted to make sure when I lead a team, I want everybody to feel like, look, they don't always have to agree with a decision I'm making or a direction we're going, but I want everybody to understand what the objective is. I want everybody to be aligned on what that objective is. I want to communicate it early and often with them, right? And I want to make sure that everybody understands what accountability looks like and what success looks like for them, for me, for the team. And all of that is on this foundation that they know I care about them as a person, right? They really know if something's going on in their life, I want to be able to help them. I want to support them, right? And if they believe that, then again, there's a level of trust that they're going to have in me, that all of those other things, right? are going to fall into place because ultimately they're going to trust. They're going to trust that I do care about them. They're going to trust that I'm always going to be honest with them and transparent. They're going to trust that I'm going to hold them accountable, and I'm going to hold myself accountable, right? So nobody's getting out of anything. We got to do the work, and we got to get the job done. So those are some of the things that I think it kind of helped me in those connections with people. But again, going back to your first question, what I learned at that early age, in that early stage of my career, was so valuable. It was so valuable. It was painful at the time, but it was valuable.
I would imagine given aggressive goals, given a competitive market, that there are times when you don't quite hit it, or sometimes you didn't hit it. You know, the environment shifted and you're way off, right? Yep. My instinct is to say that your ability to connect with people helps to make that, when it inevitably happens, easier. I don't know if that's the right word, better. I don't know if that's the right word, but you can come to me and say, look, James, not only did you not hit your numbers, you knocked the bottom out of it. And this is not good. And maybe you're not very good today. You had a bad year. You didn't do the things I asked you to do, but I love you. You're my guy, but we got to have a conversation. Is that fair, or am I off about there by myself?
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think you're dead on. And I think, again, it comes back to if people believe that you do care about them, right? And if again, if you're setting clear objectives, clear goals for the team, and you're holding everybody accountable, including yourself, right? That when you don't hit it, right? When you're not performing, they're almost going to be expecting, right, that you're going to have this conversation. And in fact, I find a lot of times they're harder on themselves than I would ever be on them, right? Because just like a leader, you've had great leaders in your career, I know, and I've had great leaders. When you have a great leader and you have a leader that you really feel cares about you, you'll run through a wall, right? I think we even talked about that the other day, right? Use that term, that you'll run through a wall for that person. And you're more disappointed in yourself or in the situation than anybody else could be, right? Because you feel like not only did you let yourself down, or maybe it wasn't so much that you let yourself down, but you didn't achieve the goal, and you feel bad. You feel bad for yourself. You feel bad for your leader. You feel bad for the team. So I think you're right. I think those connections that you make with people, if they're really meaningful connections, then you succeed together, which is outstanding. It's great. It's amazing, and it's fun. It's rewarding. And when you fail together, right? You fail together. But even that, when you have those connections, I think those failures, you're able to move past, right? You're able to push through them, and you come out strong. You come out stronger. And we've had examples, we've had times where we haven't hit our goals, and we've band together. And it's almost like, you band together because you're not hitting something. There's a set of circumstances that are going on, whatever it may be, but you come out of it the other side even stronger as a team. And it's because of the connections. So I think you're dead on.
Have you noticed any themes in your own life when it comes to connection where you easily connect with these kinds of people? It takes more effort for you to connect with this other kind of person.
I think, I do pretty well. I throughout my career, again, I've dealt with so many different types of people and leaders. I do pretty well with various types of people. Obviously, people that have a positive attitude, people that have a strong work ethic, and people that are looking to succeed no matter what role they're playing, right? And even if it's a change, even if they have to change something that they're doing, right? But they're just in it. You get those people that, hey man, I'm just in it, right? Whatever you need me to do. You need me to go over here and do this? That's what I'm going to do. You need me to do this over here? I work really well with those types of people. And maybe most people do. I don't know. The people that I will have a little bit more difficulty with are people that don't have such a positive attitude. I have a little less patience for people that maybe don't have such a positive attitude, don't have a teamwork mentality, and are in their mindset is they're in their silo and this is their problem, but anything over here or anything over here is not my problem. Not my problem, right? So I have a little more challenge dealing with those types of people. And I guess that's probably pretty normal. And I guess maybe most people would, versus somebody that the person that I described, the first time around, who's ready and gung ho. But so I would say that would probably, those are probably two different styles of people that I would either interact with differently. So that's what I would say.
Sure. And I'm thinking about my own response to that, and when I was a younger professional, maybe even today, maybe just 10 minutes ago, but I'm kind of a straight-laced person. I grew up as a military brat. I have a military background myself. I did martial arts for a long time. So I'm pretty, in a box, pretty semi-formal all the time. It's how I talk. It's how I parent. It's how I grandparent. I mean, my granddaughters call me grandfather, not grandpa or, G-dad or anything like that. I'm really kind of, box stuff, very sharp. And I have found that it has been a challenge for me. If somebody's not that way, I have to walk across the street in order to have the better connection, right? I have to make the effort. And I used to, in some ways, believe, behold, I'm the boss, so I'm going to need you to walk across the street, right? But and I think that's maybe a mentality that I grew up with, right? It's this, command and control structure mindset. And it took me a while to maybe into my late 30s to realize if you got 7 different people, you might need 7 different leadership styles, 7 different ways of connecting, and you want to be successful, you better be good at it. So can you think of a dichotomy? Like I described, like I'm a formal structured guy, I got to walk across the street over here. Another one for me, for example, I'm an introvert. If somebody's ostentatious and they got a lot going on, I'm like, oh, just, can you just turn it down? But that's who they are. And I have to adjust. But it's harder for me to connect with those kinds of people. How does that land with you?
Yeah, I would say I understand that. And I guess I'm more extroverted, right? So I'm a little more on the, I'm out there. And so when somebody is introverted, and it's interesting, as you explained that, and as you kind of gave that example, it made me think, the truth of the matter is sometimes those people and a person that I just described, right? Somebody that maybe this is my job and so on and so forth. It's often been, they are an introvert, right? Or they are, right? They're an introvert, or they're just, it's not that they're not a team player. It's not that they don't have a positive attitude, but it's a personality thing. So it's a really good point. And I've come across those types of people, and I think you're right. And so when I have that type of person, whether that's a person that I have reporting to me, whether it's a peer or whether it's a manager, my manager, I've had it all. I've had all 3 scenarios. And you're right. I've had to adjust myself a little bit in my own thinking and how I'm communicating with those people, and making sure that, I'm being really clear. I'm giving very specific, directions on what needs to be done. I'm checking in with them, right? Maybe more than I'm checking in with somebody else. And it's not, and those people, they don't take offense to that. Like somebody else, you do that, they're like, oh boy, Eric's being a micromanager. No, but this person, that's how they feel comfortable. So I think you're right. I think it's that would be an example of, and again, I've had employees, peers, and managers that have fallen into that bucket. And it is, like you said, walking across the street, right? You have to, go outside of what you normally would do and change the style a little bit based on the person and how you're going to get the most out of the person and how you're going to make the person feel comfortable in working in your environment, right? And working with them.
Again, I've got this really good friend of mine. We kind of grew up in higher education together. We were both working at universities, and he's married. He has 3 children. Well, I happen to not be married, and I have no children at home. And I told him on multiple occasions, man, your desire to be a good husband and a good father is messing up our friendship. Because I'm calling like, hey, why don't you come down to Dallas? Let's hang out. Man, I can't do that. I've got these obligations. What are you talking about? I call him. I say, hey, I just want to check in with you, make sure everything's okay. Man, I can't talk to you right now. I'm at the kids' basketball game. It's me. It's me. And I just had to realize that it's not just personality. Sometimes it's logistics. Sometimes it's parenting. sometimes it's polite, whatever, that they keep us from connecting easily, and then it requires more effort. More effort.
Yeah. I you think about it, I had a manager that he was very confrontational. Is very, very confrontational often, and he would even, I mean, I don't even know where I'm going with this. Just maybe, but I was in the office next to him, right? And he would, when he needed me, instead of either picking up the phone or walking around, he'd bang on the wall. He'd bang on the wall. 3 bangs, boom, 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 for me to go in there. And I worked for him for probably 6 years, and he was, again, a confrontational type of guy, difficult. You could even say fatal flaw in him progressing. He was a VP level, but to progress past that was a fatal flaw for him, because not just towards me. And I adjusted the way I dealt with him, right? I adjusted the way I dealt with him in how, I communicated with him, listened, did my work. And the person that took the job after me, he quit after like 3 months because of the banging on the wall, the guy that took my job. But when I left, the manager actually, when we were saying goodbye and I was moving on to the next job, he got tears in his eyes that I was leaving. He got choked up that I was leaving. And it made me think, here's this guy that's a very confrontational guy, but we built this connection, and we had very different personalities, but we built this connection with each other, and I cared for him very much. And even now, we're actually friends now, right? Years later, we stay in touch with each other. He's long since retired. And we had this connection with each other, 2 very, very different people, very difficult to work for. But yet, this relationship over 6 years, was culminated with him, getting choked up when I was moving on to another job. So I don't know if that goes anywhere, but it was just interesting thinking about your story with your friend.
Let me follow that shiny thing for just a second. Tell me, with us understanding that connection is important and connecting to our team members is important, and it helps us to be successful. But that is the backdrop, with the business purpose, the business strategy, the business goals as the direction and the rationale for the connection. How might you describe love in the business context, right? Because this getting choked up thing doesn't happen because I got to replace you. It happens because we belong to each other.
Yeah.
You're my guy and I'm your guy. And so when you think about this underused word called love in the business context, what is it? How would you describe it? What does it smell like, look like, taste like, feel like in the professional environment driving business goals?
I mean, ultimately, I feel like I go back to the foundation of, does somebody that you're working with, whether it's an employee, a peer, a manager, do they care about you? Do you care about them? Right? As a person, do you care about them? And is there a level of trust? And so to me, the caring about somebody and trusting somebody, there is this professional, there is this, that what it smells like to me is that's kind of the foundation of, do you love somebody, or is there love there in that professional relationship? There's a foundation of trust and caring that goes beyond the metrics, right? And when it's done really well, and when it's really genuine, then again, it does not mean that you don't take care of business. It doesn't mean that as the leader, you don't hold people accountable. You do hold people accountable, and you have to get the metrics and you have to hit the numbers. But again, fundamentally, if James, if you and I were working together, and God forbid there was something going on with your family, right? That would be number one priority for me. I wouldn't care about the numbers. I wouldn't care about, and when you and I talk on the phone, the first thing I want to make sure is, what's going on with your family? Tell me, talk to me. How are you doing and how's your family? We'll talk about the other stuff in a minute. But it's really because I care, and I care about you, and I care about your family, and I care about how you're doing. It's not something that I'm just doing, because, and if you and I work together, you would either feel that or you would not feel that. You would either feel that it's genuine or you would feel that that's bullshit. Excuse me for using some language on the podcast, but you would either feel it's genuine or feel it's not. And if you feel it's genuine, right, the business is still the business and we're still going to hold each other accountable, whatever it is. But there's a relationship that we're building with each other. And there's a love there, in a professional sense that's how I feel about it. One other point I would make is the trust is also about credibility, right? That you do what you say you're going to do. And I do what I say I'm going to do. And again, whether you're an employee, whether you're my peer, or whether you're my boss, if I say I'm going to do something for you, or if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. If I make a commitment to you, I'm going to keep it. And if I can't keep it, I'm going to come to you and I'm going to have a conversation with you before the time was that I was supposed to make that commitment happen, right? Not after, not the day of, but before, right? And